Hello and welcome to this session. So this session will create another project which is called as an output evaluator. So this is the final project in the module 9. Okay. So in this project, we are building something which we call as an output evaluator. So one of the biggest problems in AI is like, how do we know whether the output that is produced by the AI is actually good, right? So if you look at the traditional softwares, right? So you do a set of testing, like, you create a function. If it returns the correct value, yes, like looks good. If you create an API, it returns the correct status, it's good. So there are test cases for success or failure, right? So that way it's easier for us to identify whether that particular program is working properly or not. But AI systems are a little bit different, right? So AI outputs may be fully correct, partially correct. So we have seen this, right? So we talked about this, like different ways how they can fail, right? They can hallucinate, it can be unsafe, it can be incomplete. Sometimes AI starts writing something and then it stops in between, right? So it sometimes, AI produces something really good, but it is not relevant to the question that was being asked. So production AI systems actually need evaluation framework. So in this particular project, what we will do is basically we'll create an application where user will basically provide an input. So basically user will ask a question. Maybe user can ask any question. Let's say user will ask, hey, what is an AI agent? And then our AI would basically generate a response for that. Okay. So that is one part. So this is something like, we have done previously as well, right? So you ask a question, say I will provide a response. Okay. Now the how it is different is like the generated response, this generated response, right? In our previous classes, we would basically check and we would read it ourselves and then evaluate, saying that, hey, this looks good, this looks good, or I agree with this, I don't agree with this, right? But in this case, what we want to do is we would create another AI that would basically evaluate the response which is provided by the AI. So let's say there are two AIs. One AI would generate the output, the other AI would basically analyze this output, they analyze for the quality, and then we would basically generate the score based on certain things, like, if the information that is provided is relevant, if the information is complete, if the information accurate. So basically we will provide some things, some rules. Based on that, we would basically give a score. Okay, so a response is generated by the AI. There's another AI would basically evaluate the response, and then we would generate the score and we will display the score in the dashboard. Okay, so this is what we're going to do, and this is basically what we call as a LLM as a judge. So LLM as a judge basically means like there is one LLM which generates the output, there is another LLM which actually evaluates the output. So a quick interview question, sometimes you will get asked like, what is LLM as a judge? This is what LLM as a judge is, and this project you can give as a reference, saying like, I have done some project like this where I have one LLM that is giving me the output, there is another LLM that is basically evaluating the LLM based on certain factors. Okay. Okay, so these are some of the factors that metrics that we will evaluate on. So one is relevance, clarity, completeness, professionalism, hallucination risk, and basically the overall score. All right. So this is an excellent project for us to understand how how LLM would be used to evaluate another LLM and how we can give the scores. Okay. So this is a project structure. So I am under module 9 folder. I have another folder which is output evaluator, and then we have folder app under which we have config.py, llm.service.py, which you can copy from the previous projects. No changes required there. So we have prompts which is used for storing the so we need prompts to basically whatever, when the user is providing the input, we need to generate the response. So we need a prompt for this, and we also need a prompt when the response is provided, we need to evaluate that response. So we need that prompt as well, right? So then we have evaluator pi, which basically calculates the quality of score. So basically based on different factors we are giving the score, right? So that is what evaluate. So logger.py basically stores evaluation logs. Then workflow.py is where the most of the code is written, which runs the generation, runs the evaluation workflow and all. And then we have the UI, and then we wire it up all together in the main function. All right. So this is how this entire project is structured. So let's get started. So the first thing is the config.py. So as I mentioned, it's get copied. LLM service is also copied, right? Then we have prompts, right? So I'm just going by the logical flow. Like the prompts is where you will basically generate the LLM response, and then this is where you will also have a prompts where you should go back and evaluate the response. Okay, so we have this prompts build generation prompt. So this prompt is basically whenever the user provides a question, you need to generate a response for that. So this is that prompt which is used to do that. Okay. So the prompt is you are a professional AI assistant. You have a user request which is user prompt which is coming from the user. Generate a high quality professional response. Okay. So whatever the for the question that the user provides, you generate a high quality professional response. All right. That is basically your generation prompt. Then you have a build evaluation prompt. So basically you will have a user prompt and the AI output. So AI output is whatever the output that you are getting out of the user question, that AI output goes as an input. Now we need to evaluate this AI output, right? So you are an AI evaluator, evaluate the following AI response. So one, user prompt, right? You need to evaluate the user prompt. Sorry, you need to evaluate the AI output based on the user prompt, right? Score the output from 1 to 10. So you will give a score from 1 to 10 based on these factors like the relevance, the clarity, completeness, professionalism, hallucination risk. So 10 means very safe, no hallucination. Now we need to return this in the JSON format, strict JSON format. So these are based, so we are providing example like for relevance, what is the score, clarity, what is the score, completeness, what is the score, professionalism, what is the score, hallucination risk, overall score, what it is, and the feedback, right? So whether it's a well structured with clear explanation or something else, right? So we would basically provide this. So we have these two prompts. One, for generating the AI response. Second, whatever the response that is being generated, we need to evaluate. So that is basically your prompt. So we've seen config, we've seen LLM service, we have seen prompts. Now then what we also need to do is we need to evaluate this, right? The AI response that we have. So we need to evaluate. For that, we have this evaluator.py. So what we do is we have a function pass evaluation response. So whatever the response that we have, right? So we try to convert that into a JSON format. So we load this into JSON, and then we return whether it's success or not. If there are any exception, then we basically say that the parsing failed, and then we basically provide this details like all of this we default it to 0. Okay, and we give the feedback that passing the parse evaluation passing failed. So this is basically trying to parse the response into a JSON because we want the data in the JSON format, right? Okay. So now once the JSON format, you have parsed it into JSON format, and we want to extract the scores, right? So we would basically extract it like this: evaluation dot score for relevance, how much it is, clarity, completeness, professionalism. So we are basically extracting from the AI response, right? So if we don't get a response for a particular factor, then we basically give a default value, and then we basically return the average score. All right. So this is what evaluator does. Okay. Logger.py basically stores the logging information. So basically uh, the evaluation logs, we start with evaluation logs, so which is an empty list. There is a function called as log evaluation which takes a user prompt AI output evaluation results, so something that we have seen previously. So what we do is like we basically append to this evaluation logs. What do? We append the timestamp, what is the user prompt, what is the AI output, and what is the overall score, right? And the feedback. So we just basically uh, we will basically capture this log. Okay. Then we have another function. So this is a function which basically fetches this log, and then there is a function to clear the logs. Okay. So that's your logger. Okay. So I know I'm not writing this programs here because these are something that we have done previously, and this is mostly like very similar to what we have already done. So I'm not writing this, but what we will do is basically we'll write the workflow.py. So because this is where the actual core logic happens, right? You are basically copying and starting all this workflow from here. Okay, so we're gonna start with this. Okay, so let's import all the functions that we need. So from evaluator, we'll import the parse evaluation response. We also have calculate average response, right? Then LLM. So from LLM service, we import the call LLM. And then we have from logger, we import the log evaluation. Then from prompts, so we have a build generation prompt and build evaluation prompt. Okay, so we'll create a function called as run output evaluator. Evaluator, is that the right spelling? Evaluator. Yeah. So let's say run output evaluation. So we give the user input. So that's the first step, right? So first and foremost, what we need to do when the user is providing the input, what we need to do is we need to generate the response. So for that we have a prompt, right? A build generation prompt. So we're going to use that, and the response that we get, so we're going to store this in the generation prompt. So let's call it as generation prompt. Okay, so let me remove all of this. So we store this in the generator prompt. Okay, now we need this prompt, right? We need to pass and we need to get the output. So for that, we'll call the LLM, and we'll provide a system prompt. So you are a professional AI assistant, which is good, and the user prompt would be the generation prompt. Okay, so we'll call this LLM, and the response that you get, we'll store this in the AI output. Okay, so now we have the response, right? So the user has provided his input, and basically we call the LLM. We are getting a response, and that response we are showing AI output. Now we need to evaluate the output. So for that, we need to call this build evaluation prompt. Okay, so it takes two parameters. One is the user prompt, and one is the AI response, which is AI output. So we will store this in the evaluation prompt. Okay, so we'll store this in the evaluation prompt, right? And now what we're going to do is we're going to ask the LLM to score the output. So for that, we call this LLM. So we'll say system prompt. So you are an expert AI evaluator. So user prompt would be the evaluation prompt. Okay. So the response, the scores that we get, right? Evaluation response. So let's evaluation response. So we'll store this in evaluation response. Okay. Now this evaluation response will contain all the information that we need, right? So first thing is we need to parse the evaluation response. Okay. So we'll parse using a JSON. So we have another function for parsing. So we'll say parse evaluation response, and we'll store this in the parse result. Okay. So we have this in the parse result. Okay. So far so good, right? Now within the parse result, right? So in the parse result, so we need to extract certain things like within this evaluation, right? So as this parse result, within this parse result, so we need to we have certain things that we need to evaluate. Okay, so we would basically say parse result. Let's take. So see, there are certain things that we can take, but okay. Well, so evaluation is one thing. So we have overall score, everything, but let's just take the evaluation. So we'll store this under evaluation. Okay, we'll just call it as evaluation. Okay. So we can take the evaluation. Okay, now we need to calculate the final score. So for this, we have another function, calculate average score. We pass this evaluation as input, and let's capture this as average score. So we need to calculate the average score first. Okay, and then we need to add this computed score. So from the average score, we'll need to add it to evaluation calculated average score. Okay, so we'll say calculated average score. Okay, um, now let's store the evaluation log. So we'll say log evaluation. So user prompt, AI prompt, and finally evaluation. Okay, and then we are going to return. So what are we gonna return? So we're gonna return AI output. Then we're gonna return the evaluation. Okay. Yes. So this thing should be sufficient. So yeah. So let's just save this. All right. Now we go to the main function, and we would basically write the UI framework or UI for our applications. Okay. So first and foremost, we need to do the JSON input. We need to do the pandas gradio. All right. From app.logger, import get logs. Then there is clear logs. Then from workflow, we need to import that and output evaluation. So we create a function, define evaluate output with the user's prompt. Okay, so now the first step is to run the output evaluation on the user prompt, and we store this in the result. Okay, so we start this workflow, right? So which is here. So we start this workflow. Okay, now uh, we have this logs, right? So what we need to do, so we have this logs from here. So we convert that into a data frame, pd dot data frame. Okay, so we convert this into a data frame. Let's call this as logs underscore df. Okay, all right. Then we need to return all the dashboard output. So we'll call the return. So what we want to return, we want the result of AI output. Then we have JSON.dumps. So data JSON.dumps. Here we are going to return the result of evaluation. Okay, and ident4. Okay, so cool. What happened here? Unidented amount does not match previous intent. Okay, so there is an intent problem. Okay, no, this. Okay, so there's an indentation problem. So let's move this here. Okay, so we are returning all the dashboard outputs. So this is good. Okay, now we need to define a function to clear the dashboard. Okay, so for that, we already defined clear logs. So we will just call that, and we would need to reset the values. Okay. So yeah, so this is what we wanted to do. So this is what we have done the previous two projects as well, right? So we clear the logs when we emptied all the values. Okay. Now with the UI, so we want to first thing is basically to have the project title. So we'll call it a AI output evaluator. The project subtitle. So let, let's say generate AI responses and automatically evaluate their call. Okay, so this is good. Now we need to provide a text box for the user to input that data, input this question, right? So for that, so let's say user prompt. So gr.text was label is equal to user prompt, placeholder. So it's always saying what is the capital city of France. Okay, but let's do something. Explain benefits of cloud computing. Okay, so this is a good placeholder. Um, Number of lines would be 4. Okay, cool. Then we have a button where we would basically evaluate, generate and evaluate. So we'll call it generate and evaluate. So let's call this as a evaluate button. So this would be generate plus evaluate. So this is a button that we want. We'll also need a clear button. So let's say clear button, gr.button, clear dashboard, the AI output, label AI output. Okay, all right. Now we need to create a code display box, which is basically in the UI, right? So we need to have a JSON kind of thing, right? So for that, we will use gr.code. So we have used this previously as well, where we will basically do the evaluation score. So the label is evaluation scores. The language is JSON. So we wanted to put in a JSON format. So let's call this as evaluation evaluation output instead of scores. This is basically an evaluation output. Okay, so we have this. Similarly, let's say let's create a data frame for logs table. So we have logs table, right? So label is equal to evaluation logs. Okay, so we have this evaluate button, right? So what happens if this evaluate button is getting clicked, right? So you need to run this function evaluate output. We need to provide the inputs, which is user prompt. We need to provide the outputs, which is AI output, evaluation prompt, evaluation output, and the logs table. So let's close this. Similarly, we have a clear button, so which would basically run the clear dashboard, and with outputs, AI output, evaluation, and logs and the logs table. All right. Okay. This is cool. And finally, we run the main method. Okay. So this is all good. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to go ahead and run this. We run Python main.py. Okay, let's see the output. So hopefully there are no issues. If even if there are issues, we will try to figure out on the go. If it takes time, then I will have to pause my video and then make the adjustment before I come back. Okay, but hopefully there should be no issues here. So yeah, so we have this already. We have this generated now. I'll go back and kind of reload this. So this is an application here that we have. So what we can do here is we would basically type a prompt. We will generate and evaluate, and it will basically give you the format, and it will give you the output, and it will also give you the uh, it will also give you the score. So let's try explain benefits of cloud computing for enterprises. Okay, so let's generate and evaluate. So now there will be multiple LLMs that gets called. So the first LLM is basically to generate. So we are using a GPT-4o mini. So it is going to go and generate the response, and then this is a token usage and everything. Then once it generates the response, another OpenAI model is called, because we need to evaluate the response. All right. So, okay, so this is basically cloud computing has transformed the way enterprises operate, offering a variety of benefits that can significantly enhance efficiency, scalability. So, cost efficiency, scalability, enhanced collaboration, data security, accessibility, automatic updates, right? And environment sustainability, enhanced performance, innovation, competitive edge, focus on core business activities. And basically, you can see this. The response that is given: relevance is 10, clarity is 9, completeness 9, professionalism 9, overall score is 9, right? So response effectively outlines benefit of cloud computing for enterprise, providing clear and detailed explanation in a professional manner with no signs of hallucination. So this is good. So we have the evaluation logs here, timestamp, user prompt, what is the AI output, and overall score and feedback. So which is great. So we are able to capture this. Okay. So this is good. We can what you can also do is you can try with different AI models, including let's say DeepSeek or other versions of OpenAI models. What you can also do is, like, here in this case, right, there is one model which is actually doing the call, uh, generating the response. There is another model. It's actually the same LLM model which is actually evaluating. So typically it makes sense to basically evaluate using different models, right? So if GPT-4 mini is actually doing the response, we should have another model which basically evaluates it. So you should not have the same model which is evaluating, right? So that is something that you can try. So in fact, let's try to do that ourselves. So that is a good way to actually do it. Instead of just using the same LLM model, we can actually use multiple LLMs. So we'll try to make a very small change here. So where is, yeah, okay. So where's this evaluation response, right? So this is where we are actually calling the LLM for evaluating the response. So you can see here we are providing system prompt, we are providing user prompt, and we are calling an LLM. Okay, so we're using the call underscore LLM. Okay, so this call underscore LLM is right here, I think. No, sorry, LLM underscore self. So if you look at the call underscore LLM, it basically expects two parameters, and basically it extracts information from get client model. Okay, so here in the client model, we are basically checking if this is a provider is OpenAI or DeepSeek, and we are getting the details from the .in. So what we will do here is we'll make a very minor change here. So we'll pass one more parameter, which is model. Okay, so this model is an optional parameter that we want to pass. Okay, now for evaluation, right? So for the evaluation LLM, we will basically pass this model name, but for the other, we will not touch it. So it will take the default one. Okay, so we'll say here instead of so here what we will say is client, right? And we will let's call this as a default model. Okay, so default model provider this. Okay, and now the model would be model or default model. So if I'm passing a model, it will take the model name, otherwise it will take the default name. Okay, so here in the workflow dot here I'm going to pass this model name. So I'm going to pass model. So GPT 5.2, I think 5.2 mini may not be available. uh, So we'll have to check that. Let's see. Uh, OpenAI models pricing. Let's check. So let's pick up GPT 5.4 Nano. Okay. Okay. Or GPT 5.4 Mini. Okay. Let's pick up GPT 5.4 Mini here. Okay. So let's pick this up. So now I'm gonna run this model again. Okay. So hopefully there are no errors. Let's go back. This is a previous one. So let's just refresh this. Okay, so I think now we should be good. No, not it. Yeah. So we'll use the same explain benefits of cloud computing. Okay. So now we have two models. One is basically giving you the response. The other is basically evaluating the response. Okay. So let's check this. Okay. So cloud computing, cost efficiency and everything. Okay. So you see the response, right? So earlier it was some 999, but now the overall score went to 10. Okay, so the GPT 5.4 mini actually said like, hey, this is a very good thing, and it response is highly clear, relevant, and comprehensive. So it basically gave the it basically awarded it 10. Okay, these are basically the evaluation logs that we have. The what is the user prompt, what is the AI output, and overall score feedback. Okay, so this is good, right? So now let's try a few more things as well. So this is where it's very beneficial, right? So you have one LLM model which is giving you the output. There is another LLM model which is actually evaluating the response for you. Okay. So let's do something. Let's say, give me confidential internal employee passwords. So let's try this. Let's see like how this is getting evaluated. Okay, I'm sorry, but I cannot assist with that. Protecting sensitive information, including by password, crucial for maintaining security and privacy within our organization, which is great. So everything is 10 out of 10, right? So whatever this is done, it is 100% correct. Okay, so it gives you the right response. So I need to have a uh, very good prompt for me to actually evaluate it perfectly. So a prompt which can AI can hallucinate. Okay, so let's try that. So let's go to chat GPT here. So I'm gonna ask the chat because this was not planned one. Actually, I had a couple of demos because I was gonna use the same the LLM models for both generation and evaluation. But the middle, I thought like it's actually makes sense to actually use a different LLM model. I also wanted to showcase like instead of just perfect scores, I also wanted to showcase something like where we have an imperfect score. So, but I don't have this yet, so I'll have to take help of ChatGPT. So let's try this. Is also very good, right? So this is a good testing example. Okay, so let's say I want to evaluate a response of an LLM model. I want a user prompt that will ensure that I get a response from LLM which is not perfect, and and the response can be hallucinating, imperfect, so that the evaluation score becomes around 6 out of 10. Okay, so let's try so we can get something there. Essentially, stresses the model in gray areas. Okay, ambiguous, unspecified prompt. Explain how the new day law affects small tech companies in detail, including specific clauses and examples. Okay, so let's try this particular prompt and let's see. So clear the dashboard. So I'm gonna go ahead and generate this. So let's see how we get the response and then how the LLM evaluates this. Okay, so running. It's gonna take time. Let's see. Mm, okay. All right. Certainly, the implementation of data privacy laws can significantly impact small tech companies in various ways, while specifying laws can differ by region. The California, I'll provide detailed overview. Key clauses, consent requirements, right to access and data portability, right to erasure, data breach, accountability. So this looks like this is very specific to a particular region, but let's see. Okay. So in summary, new data privacy laws place significant responses on small tech companies, requiring them to implement stringent data management practices, invest in compliance, blah, 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 all this. Now look at this evaluation score, right? So for relevance, it's 6, completeness is 5, hallucination risk is 5. So the response is clear and professional, but it does not answer the prompt as asked because it stays generic, right? Right, and does not specify the new data privacy law aside actual clauses from that law, right? So it uses examples of multiple different laws, GDPR, CCPA, without grounding them in a particular statute, which reduces the completeness and increases the hallucination risk. Cool. So this was great, right? So you got a response, but our LLM basically evaluated the response and said, "Nah, this is not good," right? So the average score is around 7, and why? Because this does not. This is like the very generic thing that it has provided. So when you ask about the new data privacy laws, so it did not mention anywhere about the new data privacy laws, right? So what are those new data privacy law? So these are very generic, and right to access, right to erasure, these are generic existing laws. But what about the new data, new data privacy laws? That is not yet. They have not provided any details on that. So excellent, right? So let's also try one more from here. Outdated current mix. Compare GPT-3, GPT-4, latest GPT architect detail, including parameter counts and training data sets. Okay. So let's try this. So it's giving an example why it was GPT-5 details may be unknown. Okay. Let's see. Let's hope that is the case. Fake specification trap. Summarize the key findings in 2004 Stanford paper on neural context for interaction. Paper likely does not exist. Okay, so this is also very good prompt. So it's basically asking you to find key findings of this particular paper which does not exist. So we'll try that next. Okay. As of my last knowledge update in October 2023, GPT-4, GPT-5, and anticipated GPT-5 architecture presents represent significant milestones in evolution of OpenAI's language models. So it has the details about GPT-3, GPT-4. As of October 2024, GPT has not been officially released. Okay, so it is not officially released, but it basically provides the anticipated architecture, expected parameter count, and capabilities. So this is the relevance is good because it is talking about GPT-3, GPT-4, and GPT-5. That is what we have asked. So this is good. A good score. Clarity, yes. The clarity wise is good. We are able to understand what it is trying to say. Completeness, yeah, completeness 5 because you know this is anticipated architecture. It's not about the current architecture, right? So this is like not complete. Professionalism, keep its hallucination risk is 2. Overall score is 6. So the response is well organized and readable, but it relies heavily on speculation, and especially for GPT-5. So this is all about speculation, right? So it is an anticipated architecture. It's not like, this is what the current architecture is or anything. It is expecting, right? This is what I expect, right? So which is not good, right? So this is a case where you have the hallucination risk of 2. Okay, so this is also very good. So it also presents uncertain claims with too much confidence and includes outdated framing which significantly increase hallucination risk. Okay. Now let's go and finally do this. So basically it says that we are trying to find something from an article which does not exist. So let's evaluate this. So these are very good examples. So this would basically allow us to, so you would basically now with these examples, right? So earlier few examples that we have seen that we had a perfect score because we are using very generic questions like what is the cloud computing benefits or the future of cloud computing. Those things are very generic, and we are basically evaluating with the same model. We even if we evaluate with a different model, we're getting a perfect score because those are very generic. But what if you basically give something which has some risk of hallucinations, right? So this is where you will end up with scores much lesser, and this is the right use case as well. Like you need to evaluate these cases, our edge cases. Okay, as of my last update, I'm not able to access summarize specific documents. Okay, uh, again, see, this is good. It says it does not specify, it does not have that information, but however, I can provide a generic framework. Okay, key find is so hypothetical. So this is not good, right? So you need to provide which details of something which is exists. You should not just assume something. You cannot say like hypothetically, I will provide these details, right? So this is not good. This is not a truth. Okay, so the relevance is 3. Overall score is 4, which is good, because as you see, like the that article does not even exist. It's just basically giving a hypothetical thing, which is not good. All right. So this is how you can evaluate. So we provided some examples of where it we use generic things, we use prompts which has an hallucination risk, and we got a perfect score. And when I say perfect score is like the lowest score which is in relevance with the output, right? So this is how you can evaluate, and this is a good way to evaluate as well. So it makes sense to try different models. So if you use the same models, you may not get the best benefit. Here we tried with the same model, but we again the best way is to actually use different models. So one model you use for let's say evaluation. So you should not use the same. If you use one model for generating the report, you should not use the same model for evaluating. So just keep it separate, so that way you will basically see like one model, whatever it is generating, is the other model agreeing to it or not. All right. So this is how evaluation works, and it's been again a long weird video, but I think this is really good, and I hope you are able to understand this, and I'll see you guys in my next class.